And welcome back to Wrestling Mindset. Today we are here with the great Eleazar De Luca, former Rutgers wrestler, Rumson Wrestling, Dragon Wrestling Club. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So where are you right now? Are you at the club?
Yep, I'm at the club right now.
Nice.
This is it. Got about 7,000 square feet. Got about 3.5 mats of space and then a full weight room.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
How long has that been going for?
Well, recently we got it, you know, the entire building and just been taking it day by day and training the heck out of these guys.
That's right. That's right. So what nights does it go? And where are you normally? Because I know you come up by me also, Bergen Catholic, some nights. Talk about that.
Yep, we have our Dragons North. It's going on 4 days a week up at Bergen. I'm there once a week. Paulie Amato's there once a week, and then Joe Grello and Brady Ford, they're there once a week. And yeah, we got a good little program up there. Those guys do an awesome job, and we're lucky to have them on board with us.
And coaching one of the top public schools in the state.
Yeah, we were the top public school in the state last year for the first time. That was pretty cool. So, it's our goal was to be when I first got there was to be the number one public school in 5 years, and we did it in 4 years. So, I'm staying pretty busy with wrestling. I coach wrestling full time. We have a homeschool program going on down here during the day, where we coach kids all the way from 7 years old to 14 years old, and then we have a high school practice, a basics practice, and a Dragons advanced practice going on every day. So it's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Who are the coaching staffs over there?
Coaching staff over here for the basics, we have Travis Torchia, who also runs the BYAA program. And then we have Paulie Amato and myself.
Awesome. Awesome. So what are some of the biggest things you see the high school kids struggling with, or maybe different, like maybe looking at wrestling the wrong way? What could they be doing differently that you see just like kind of at a first glance?
Well, are you talking just in general, like high school kids today?
Whatever direction you want to take it.
I think sometimes, high school kids, or really all kids, it's you get caught up on the wrong things. I think cutting weight. Um, I think that's a big thing that, these high school guys can get caught up in thinking they need to cut weight to win. And, I don't really think that's the case. I think that focusing on your skill set, focusing on technique, focusing on your mindset, those are all things that can enhance your wrestling. And, at the end of the day, cutting weight and, putting your body through that is actually putting it at a disadvantage. And, typically you're not getting the better results from doing it either. And if you are, those results only last so long. It'll eventually catch up with you.
Yeah. What are some of the lessons you think that you learned kind of like as you were going in your career? And, I guess what helped you to bring out your best?
Well, I think that's probably the thing that makes me a better coach than I was wrestler is I don't know that I ever brought out my best due to the fact that I never, I never had full structure, consistent structure. I was, all over the place in college, and it wasn't until, I got to Rutgers and I was with Donnie Pritzloff that he really provided a lot of stability for me. But still, even then, I had committed to going 149. I grew out of the weight class, and I had a big cut my senior year, which actually hurt me in the long run. And probably would have been better going 57. So, but again, these are lessons that you learn, and you make sure that your wrestlers don't do the same.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's like how the good coach looks at it, right? I want to give you, it's like, I went through it, so you don't have to go through it, right? Like, don't,
Yeah.
don't make the mistakes that I have and not just about making the mistakes, because obviously you did a lot of things well to get to that point. Like, here's some of the things you could do to advance your wrestling leaps and bounds rather than go through the painful process of trial and error. Clearly, a lot of your guys have done that. Talk about that. Some of the guys that you've cultivated from a young age and how they've grown.
Well, we've had a lot of the top kids in New Jersey come through our program at some time. You know, Sonny Amato, he's just committed to Iowa. He's been with me since he was a 10-year-old little kid, and he wasn't always the most talented kid or what people saw as the best wrestler, but he stayed consistent, stayed working hard. His dad followed the program, was a big part of the program, and never cut his weight. And you saw that this kid as a freshman, he was strong. He was physically put together and healthy. So, I think that's a guy that I've seen do a tremendous job. Another one on the high school level that we've had, Joaquin Duque, who has the pin record at the New Jersey State Tournament with 6 pins last year, ended up fifth in the state. He was a kid that he started as, an 85-pound freshman. Um, wasn't varsity his freshman year. Sophomore year, had to go up 2 weight classes to find a spot in the lineup. Ended up not qualifying for state. And junior year ends up, second in the region, fifth in the state tournament, beats the kid for fifth and sixth that he lost to at the region. Just seeing him stay the course and not get discouraged in the low points, to find that high point. And now it's looking, he's on the hunt for a state title. So it's cool to see those kids outperform and just follow the program and get rewarded at the end.
Yeah, like you said, the trust and the stability, and that's a difficult thing nowadays. Like we were talking about a while ago, kids jumping around, going different places, and I don't know, maybe to some extent that's needed, or maybe it's not needed at all. I mean, in the Soviet Union, they didn't do that. They had one coach. You had one coach from when you were 7 years old all the way on up. And those guys, they win the Olympics, and they and they have a statue of their coach outside the gym. You can't really argue with that, you know?
No, I think that's something that in America, I think we don't see as much. We see a lot of kids jumping around thinking they're going to get this from this guy, that from that guy, where these guys in the Soviet Union, they had that one coach, and they were there was a lot of trust built into that. And you always hear that saying, too many cooks in the kitchen. So I'm a believer in that. I like my guys to stay put and stay consistent, and stick with us. We got two high level coaches in our program. We have a high level strength coach. There's not a lot of need for jumping around to go find new techniques, because we're giving them so many techniques, and our system is proven.
You think they're going around for the techniques, or you never know what's going on. A lot of times the parents, not that we're picking on any parents in particular, but you know who you are. But you know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's chasing fear of missing out, right? I just got off the phone with Coleman Scott not long ago, and he said FOMO, right? That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And he talks to parents all the time. Hey, here's an Olympic bronze medalist, right? So when it's like, hey, you should maybe at least consider what I'm telling you.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I think it's probably more so the partners, they want to go find new partners, go wrestle with that guy. Maybe there's a guest clinician at this place or whatnot. But yeah, you know, probably more so the partners, where in the grand scheme of it, you don't need a great partner. You need a body that's going to go through the proper drills. So in that sense, you need them to do the drills properly, but it doesn't have to be somebody that, oh, this guy beats me up every day, or this guy I'm good with. We're 50-50, or this guy I'm beating up. I think in my program, it's about, everybody brings everybody up. So our littlest guy, the older guys, it's their job to bring the little guy up. It's the guys in the middle, it's the older guys to job to bring them up. And we have a saying, everybody wrestles with everybody in our program. So you'll see a high school guy grab a little dude and just start, scrapping with him, and give him back. I think that's a big thing that is missed is the giving back aspect. Like you got to in order to build um, a strong group, you got to have everybody on board with giving back and getting everybody better.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, and especially, I mean, it seems like you guys have taken off with a lot of great speed and success. What are maybe some of the like some of your coaching philosophies, some of the things you're trying to ingrain in them at a young age, like
Oh,
developing
just
the habit of looking at wrestling through the right lens, right?
oh, drilling proper technique in chain wrestling. That's probably my, biggest coaching philosophy. Um, just really focusing on mastering the drills, mastering chain wrestling, looking at wrestling as a class. Like you're in class to learn,
Right.
right? And sometimes I think in wrestling it's such a tough sport that everybody thinks you got to grind all the time, and you gotta it's a really cerebral sport, so you got to be cerebral with the kids. You got to break it down for them to where they can understand it, and then just chain wrestle them. Like I'll put my guys through 15, 20 techniques in a day, but it doesn't seem like it's a lot of technique because they're constantly used to doing it, and they're going from one position to the next. So, and just by doing that, it instills a lot of good positional habits, and also instills hard work in them.
Yeah, because remember that was one of the things you were doing when my boys were over in there. It's tough to always get them over, but how keeping the discipline. I think it was just the turning the corner, keeping your head up, your back straight, shoulder. And you look at the Soviets, and it's not just the Soviets who do this. Obviously, all great wrestlers do it, but your back is straight and your head is up, and we're going to stay here until you get that. That's more important than necessarily the move because you have to get to that position. I mean, how many times we see a guy gets into the bad, they get into the bad position, but then immediately they put themselves in good position. That's a lot
Right.
of wrestling too, right? Auto correcting yourself after the bad shot.
I think we saw a lot of that from Mitchell Messenbrink this weekend. He dive in on a shot, looks like a dive, and then he's in on a single leg, and he's correcting his position immediately, and just really focusing on the posture of wrestling. In my perspective, there's proper wrestling and there's improper wrestling. It's not, in between. Well, that might work. Well, that kind of works. No, no. There's good positioning and there's bad positioning. So let's put a lot of focus on good position. Let's get strong in the positions that we see the best guys in the world executing from, and that's how we see it.
Yeah. And it's especially at the young age, you need to like, yes, freedom will come in time, but there's these borders that we have to, it's not like absolute freedom. Like when you're playing the piano, oh yeah, just be free. You're not just mashing keys. Well, no, you need to learn whatever it
Right.
is, the circle of fifths, and this is how you hold your hands, and this is how you sit. And then once you have that, okay, now you've earned the right to have freedom within that structure.
I think everybody hears Penn State's play wrestling. Well, all those dudes spent their whole youth drilling with
Yeah.
somebody who was saying, "I want you to do this, and I want it to be done this way." There's no freedom. It's do it how you see it, do it how we show it. And then when you build all those positions and you get to a Penn State where now the coach is saying, "Okay, I want you guys to play wrestle and flow through all these positions, put higher level guys in a room together that all did the work. They're capable of doing that, and they've earned that freedom."
Right. They've developed the habit. I just saw a good article on the Japanese baseball now, because obviously the World Series, Otani and Yamamoto and those guys, and what they were saying, like in Japan, they're extremely strict on it's like a no nonsense discipline practices from, the dawn to dusk or whatever. Then it's just like, yes, mastering those fundamentals. It's not just, oh, hey, it's all me and I'm going to just kind of wing it. Which is like you said, if you just hear play wrestling, play wrestling. Yeah, but if you don't even know what to do, that's
Yeah.
going to be all over the place. And you see a lot of young kids when they try to do that. You need a mop to get these guys off the mat. They're just flopping around all over the place.
Yeah, well,
Is that helping them? No.
you can get good at bad wrestling. Like I was a super aggressive kid growing up, and I just went after guys, and it wasn't really good. And I remember my freshman year, I got in a habit of shooting with my head down in the middle and coming out the back door, and I'm like, well, it works for me until it doesn't, right? Until you find that guy that's, you know, a super stud and says, no, I know how to wrestle, and I'm not going to let you do that to me. So, it's you got to get good at proper wrestling.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you see some of the biggest things that wrestlers are struggling with? Let's say mentally. What are some like maybe the mental blocks, putting pressure on themselves? Are they overthinking? Do you think a lot of times it's confidence? Is it fear of letting other people down?
Yeah, I think probably, fear of maybe letting their parents down. I think that's a big one. And I think that a lot of it is from, they can be all over the place sometimes to where they're jumping from club to club and they're getting confused and their parents want them to do this or that. And it's like there's frustration that gets built. I think that at least from my perspective and my experience, those wrestlers that stay put, follow a system, follow a program, they don't think as much when they wrestle. It's more reaction because it's not, well, so and so showed me this and so showed me that, and well, what do I do here and what do I do there? And then they get in the position they're actually thinking too much in the match to where if they just have that reaction built in them, there's less thinking and they're more confident in it at the end of the day. So I am 100% believer that confidence is brought by the drill. If you get good at drilling, it's going to make you more confident because you're better at the moves. So
Sure. Yeah, it works both ways. It's like what do you call it, a reciprocal interaction. Confidence breeds competence, competence breeds confidence.
yeah,
It's got to work both ways.
I think the over competing too can cause, the mental deficiencies as well, and also the bad habits. You're in a match, you're every weekend, and maybe something's working for you, but maybe it's not proper. Or maybe
Right?
you're going to a tournament and you're cutting weight every weekend. I think that really, is not beneficial for the kids at all.
No.
I
No.
think less competing, more training, proper training, and just promoting good habits, promoting them to be strong and healthy and, live a healthy lifestyle and eat a healthy diet. And, you know, yeah, I think in the practice room, like I have some kids, they'll train with me for 6 hours a day, but they're drilling the whole day. And it's like, they're homeschooled. This is their domain. This is where they feel comfortable. Um, and we're not beating their bodies up. It's not, oh, we wrestled live for 2 hours. It was all learning and drilling and breaking down the techniques. And so I think it's like anything. If they can be at school for 9 hours a day, they can be at practice for 6 hours.
Yeah, and when you look at it, like you said, breaking the bodies down. I mean, Yanni had more surgeries than he could count on two hands when I spoke to him. Then you look at Spencer Lee, and I mean, too, and it's again, these guys are four-time national champs. So on one sense, you say, okay, well, they got it done. But on the other sense, these are guys who are looking to be Olympic champs, and I'm sure the ultimate goal is to be an Olympic champ, and that's hard when you're banging bodies all the time like that, and it's weight and get down again, and another hard practice, another grind. You know,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No doubt.
Yeah. How often do you recommend I know it depends on each guy, so there's no like exact answer, but roughly how frequently should they be competing, and how close should they be to wrestling just scratch weight basically?
Well, I think it depends again on, age and experience. Like for instance, Sonny, he'll compete. He competed once on this off season so far.
Mhm.
He won't compete again till the high school season. Um, you know, his little brother Enzo competed at the state tournament. Went out to Vegas. competed out there because his brother was competing, and hasn't competed since. And he was a New Jersey youth state champion, and he should be looking to be a state placer at the very least every year.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think it depends. I think some kids, they need more competition. I think the Warzone tournaments, Jason Layton, he runs that Warzone software. I think he does a phenomenal job in getting the kids the matches, the proper matches, in the right amount of time. So I'll tell my guys to go to a Warzone. They'll get 5 matches and they'll be out of there in 2 hours. And it'll be a combination of some wins and losses because that's what the software is geared to do. It's going to put you versus people who are a little below your skill level, and it's going to put you versus people that are a little above your skill level. So yeah.
Do you ever run war zones there? Have you
Yeah, we
talked to
do.
Jason? Oh, good. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah,
because
we're
he's a
we're
good guy.
running
Yeah.
one actually November 15th. We're gonna run one here.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And you've done one before, you said?
Yeah, we've done like 3 of them before here, and we've had some great events and great matches.
That's awesome. What does
Yeah.
the team schedule look like this year?
Team schedule, we open on December 10th. We have a try match. This year we have I scheduled 6 try matches. We have
Ah,
we don't have any quads this year. We have
yeah.
6 try matches, and then we have a bunch of dual meets and about 4 tournaments. Sam Cali, Beast of the East, Shore Conference tournament, and which one? Maybe that's it. Maybe we only have 3, but
What was your mentality behind all the try meets?
um, the mentality behind the try meets was less weigh-ins. You know,
Okay.
rather than, hey, we're gonna wrestle you a duel and we're gonna get 1 match. Well, let's get our guys 2 matches per weigh-in. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a very big deal, especially as the season goes on.
yeah, and for the fans, it's good because it gets they get to watch some good wrestling, and then for our backup guys, it gets them on the mat too. Last year we were 28-1. We had the most matches out of anybody in the entire state. We were the most traveled team in the state. Um, we went up to Phillipsburg. We went all the way down to Egg Harbor Township. We were in Blairstown, all over wrestling. So it was really good for our backups who got a lot of experience.
Is it same thing this year as far as
Oh yeah.
traveling a lot of places?
No, not too much this year. This year we tightened it up a little bit. I think we're down to like 22 matches this year. So that'll be a little bit better, a little less traveling, but still get our backups a good amount of matches so they're seasoned for next year. That's something I pride myself in. Our JV guys, they're tough. They know how to drill. At the very least, they know how to drill, and I think that's a big step to having a good team is, not forgetting about those JV guys. We love them. We want to make them the best partner in the room possible.
Right. And it's just huge because, like you said, a lot of people just don't know how to drill properly. And it really you got to just get a ton of reps in and good reps, not just get a
Yeah.
lot of, it's both a lot of drilling and a lot of clean reps.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't always see
100%.
it.
Yeah, I start our program the same every year. We go through the basics because we'll have guys that'll come out for their first year, and I gear it towards them. That first week is, hey, this is an introduction to wrestling. I'm gonna teach you your stance. I'm gonna teach you your high C position, your single leg position, so you have an idea. And then as the season goes on, we pick it up a little bit, and it's their job to keep up, and a lot of them do. So.
Will you have them start more in on the leg, or is it more, I mean, do you do it more like linearly, or you start with like almost like close to the finish?
I start at, I call it the point B. So, on your feet you're at point A, and then when you're in on the shot you're at point B, and then point C is the finish.
Right.
So I'll go from B to C. So they really know where they're shooting to and then how to finish. And
Right.
then it's funny because you almost don't even have to teach them a shot. They'll kind of figure out on their own whether they want to take an outside step or they want to take a penetration step, and they do it naturally. So I'll do a lot with the younger guys. I'll show them their high C position, and then I'll start them on their feet, and I'll play a little game. I'll say, I want to see how fast you can get to your high C position or your single leg position. And they'll start on their feet in a stance, and I'll say go, and they'll shoot into that position, and then I'll have them finish. So
Yeah, no, and this was a big thing that was spoken about at the National Wrestling Coaches Convention back in, oh boy, I guess 2012 when we first went there. They were talking about starting in a position where you're about to finish, because now when a kid is shooting, they're shooting to more comfortable territory rather than, and the finish is where you have to really get it done there. So if you just start with this setup, when when they're getting to the leg, now they're not comfortable with what they're doing, as opposed to, no, I'm really comfortable being here, so I just got to get that leg.
right, 100%.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think. Yeah, I didn't even know that was being taught there, but that's cool.
Yeah, you're shooting to great. You're basically shooting to. It makes you want to attack because you're getting to a place of greater confidence. And then I also interviewed Wade Shallis about this, who is the Guinness Book of World Records greatest pinner of all time.
Oh
And I
yeah.
said, I said, how would you teach a guy half Nelson? And he said, I would start with having the guy like with the half in and say, ready, rest, like pin them from that position and just get comfortable with, okay, this is where you would pin him from, and then work backwards from there. He had that same mentality. So these things are popping up. I mean, I'm in very like, speaking to different people who are, know what they're talking about, like yourself, but a lot of coaches don't see that. You've been around the sport a while. You've been around a lot of high level coaches and wrestlers. You are one yourself. So you're thinking about it at that level. A lot of coaches, they're not looking at it like that. So it's just, gets the wheels turning for other people that maybe there's a better way to do this, a more efficient way of doing it.
Yeah, I think as long as you have a system, I think that's a start. I think that's something that, maybe our country needs to work on a little bit better is, actually I don't know if they do because it is accessible online. If you go on USA Wrestling, they have a whole level 1, 2, and 3 system. I used it as I was developing my system. I was like, I'm writing stuff down and I'm saying, you know, th- what do I want my system to be when I first started coaching? And I use that as a lot of my resources to not only get technique from high level guys like Bill Zadek and Brendan Slay, um, Matt Linland,
Yep.
but also just how they have it structured in different levels. So for Rumson Fairhaven Youth Wrestling, I have a level 1 system. And then, I have that builds into level 2, that builds into level 3 with more advanced techniques.
Right. Like you said, there's information out there, and you have to just do some
You
digging,
just
right? But
you got to dig and you got to use it. You got to say, okay, again, what's proper and what's not.
right, and it is out there. I mean, that's why a lot of these countries are able to take less talent, less numbers, and they're still able to outplace us at the Olympics, because if you're doing things systematically, if you're doing things smart, you could beat the people who are just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, right?
Right. Right, for sure. Yep.
Yeah, we always say it's working harder and working smarter. A lot of
Oh,
times people, it's got to be both.
it's got to be both. That's the thing. It's not just work smarter, it's not just work harder, it's the combination of working harder and smarter that gets you the results that you want.
Yeah, exactly. We're speaking the same language. When I ask people what percentage of wrestling is physical and mental, and they're saying it's 90% mental, I'm like, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. We're not divorcing the two. Like, you don't split the mind and body. It's
No.
the answer is more technique, more strength, better nutrition, mindset training, the whole bit. It's a holistic sport. So it's not like, well, you pull out of this and you go, it's everything.
Right. And I think that's something that's misinterpreted.
Yes.
It's oh, 90% mental. Well, if you don't have the physical to back up the mental, if you don't have the reps to back up the mental in your body, which is in turn making you stronger, like you're not gonna have that mental toughness.
I
Yep.
mean, it's common sense. I mean, you're a pretty confident guy, you'd say.
I
can I give you a violin and you start playing?
Yeah, right.
Right, well, there you go. There you go. So you see how important technique is.
Yeah.
So it's always both. It's always both. Whenever you start like dicing it apart and this and not that, no, it's crazy. But we're always saying, hey, you better be doing everything. You better because the competition is nuts. I mean, you just see how like I feel like it's just even deeper and deeper now, like with the home schools, the gap years. How do you keep up with a guy like that who's getting good coaching throughout the day? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it's tough. You gotta do it yourself. Or again, work harder, work smarter. This is a sport that, like, if you're putting the physical work in, you can really pick wrestling up. I think, like, I don't think there's a necessary timeline. Like, it's not like I have to start wrestling by 10 years old to be good at the sport. Well, you actually don't, because one of the best wrestlers in our sport ever started at 19 years old. He was an Olympic level gymnast beforehand. He was an Olympic level weightlifter beforehand, so he had built up his body of work. And then you think, oh, it started at 19 years old. Well, he was good right away. No, he wasn't good for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, for those 5 years that he was training his butt off to be a six-time world and Olympic champion, um, that's he was learning the sport, but he had the physical attributes to learn the technique. And when you have those physical attributes, when you're stronger, wrestling's easier. So
Right.
that's Abdullah Movahed. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've heard of him.
No, no.
Yeah, he actually lives in Fairfax, Virginia, and
Wow.
he has a grandson coming up, Reese Movahed, and he's a stud. You better keep on the lookout for him. But his grandfather, a six-time world and Olympic champion for Iran,
Yep.
19 years old, started wrestling.
Wow. Yeah, well, and then there's also something to be so it's easy to take an athlete and then make them into a really good at a specific sport. It's hard to take a specialist and then make them an athlete. It's easy to go from general to specific rather than
Yes.
specific to general, right? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, you already built that foundation, so the learning curve is very high. You see a lot of improvement really quick, so the motivation is up there. And then it's also you're not learning bad habits.
Yeah,
If
right.
you're doing it at a young age and you're just learning bad habits all the time, hey, I'm not getting any better. Well, you weren't set up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have wrestlers in my youth program that they're four sport athletes, and they'll come back during wrestling season, and they haven't wrestled anywhere else for the whole year. They've played their lacrosse and baseball or cross country, whatever they're doing, and then they
Yep.
come to wrestling season and they remember how to wrestle the way that we taught them how to wrestle, because
Yep.
they're not learning it, a different
Yep.
way. So that's where it's like it's better sometimes to do nothing than it is to do it the wrong way. And I think kids can get very confused when they're being shown a lot of different things, where it's like, find a system, stick with the system, really work through the system, and you'll get that success that a lot of these good systems produce.
Right. Right. No, it's huge. And again, once the immediate gratification, constantly looking around, what are the other people doing? That's just not how when you took the more high level people you talk to, the less that's the case. But when you talk to a lot of times youth kids who have a certain level of success, like I don't know, maybe kids just one kid is more athletic than the other kids naturally at a young age, or one kid just happens to be way more aggressive. So right away they're progressing. So it's like, well, let's just copy the monkey here. Yeah, it's a good idea until it's not. When you realize, well, what did that come at the expense of? And again, I go back to the conversation with Coleman Scott. He's like, we'll get that kid on the back end. Like, where's he going to be in eighth grade? you know?
Yeah, right.
So that's great stuff. Well, anything else coming up? Anything else we want to do you want to get out to the wrestling world? Where do they find more information about dragons, Rumson wrestling? Where do we send them?
Oh yeah, we got dragonrtc.com. We have a application process. We're up at Bergen. We're down in Tinton Falls. It's again, dragons is something. it's not for everybody. It's consistent, that we're constantly preaching consistency, and it's a process. So, we've produced some of the top wrestlers in the state, Sonny Amato, Joey Canova. Um, they were two of my first dragons that I had training together, and now they're both, ranked very high in the country. One's going to Iowa, one's going to Princeton,
Not
and
bad.
both of their little brothers are coming up, and they're both tough as nails, and both of their parents understand that the dragon way, and I think it's pretty cool as we go through, as time goes on, we're getting more and more parents like that are understanding of the process, and that it is a process. I think, if you look at historically, what's the best program in New Jersey?
But,
Club.
but
Historically,
just hit the edge.
the Edge. You don't see Edge kids jumping around.
Mm-mm.
Edge kids, they stick in that room. They learn the technique. Everyone from Edge always tells me, well, Ernie, he'll break it down. He'll talk a lot about the technique, but those words, they're not just him blabbing. It's him giving them gold. So, you got to, and some people, they don't have the attention span to sit and listen, right? They want to move and go, and sometimes you got to take a step back, sit down, listen to the information, and really, you know buy into it. So that's one of the programs that obviously we look to,
Oh yeah.
replicate in a way. I as a kid, I'd go to a program called the USA Cobra up in Oregon, ran by Mark Sprague, who produced six Olympians out of his program in Oregon. And Matt Linlin, Bill Zadek, these guys were guys that came out of that program. Joe Russell, who's an Olympic level coach. I mean, at one time, all three of the Olympic level coaches came out of that program. Mark
Oh,
Sprague, I think he's 83 or 84 years old now. I'm still in contact with him to this day, talking about wrestling, sending him clips of the wrestlers, and he's,
his son is Matt.
his, his son is Mark Sprague Jr.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and he was the junior world champion back in the
Oh
day
yeah.
out of Oregon. But this guy used to be good friends with Ernie Monaco's dad, and they used to talk about wrestling a lot back then when Oregon was in their prime era of wrestling. And it's kind of cool to look back and see that these two dudes were talking on the phone from Oregon and Jersey about proper wrestling and about development of the sport. So I was lucky to learn from that guy, and he was big on drilling. He was big. The practices were really long. Um, he's a guy that if you ever have a chance to get on the show, he's someone that
All
you would
right.
really enjoy talking to because he has years of experience and is a wealth of knowledge.
That's awesome. Yeah, good. Yeah, good thinking. He would be good when to get on too.
Yeah. So
Awesome, Eleazar. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. And anyway, where else can we send them to look at the club and the team?
uh B
Instagram, I guess.
yeah, Instagram at BADWC. Run RFH wrestling for the high school. Um, And then just if any wrestlers out there are interested in Dragon and training with us, just go on our website at dragonrtc.com.
Awesome. And we'll throw the link in the show notes. Send me whatever you want, and we could always pop it in there.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.